These people may be isolated, unbalanced even, but I believe with the right push, they can be exactly what we need.
Kintsugi is a Japanese art that repairs broken pottery with gold. It emphasizes beauty in being broken and highlights imperfections rather than hiding them. So when I hear this, I can't help but be reminded of the Avengers. Each of the 6 main characters are like shattered pieces of pottery. By themselves, they feel like they don't offer much value. However, when you put them all together for a common purpose, you have something that made me obsessed with superheroes since I was 10 and I saw this scene.
I'm always angry.
So let's see how each of these characters in the Avengers were broken and how embracing their imperfections can help us in the real world.
You won't be alone.
Oh my god. This guy's still alive.
Now, as I've mentioned before on this channel, I'm not a psychologist or a human behavior specialist. However, I think it's safe to say Steve has a fixation on the past, and rightly so. It looks like he has some unresolved grief to me. Cap lost his entire world when he went under, not to mention he lost his parents, his best friend, and who can forget about this scene.
I had a date.
So realistically speaking, I think it's safe to say anybody in those circumstances would feel broken, and this is one of 5 tortured souls that we have to examine. So this video is an after school special.
That man is playing Galaga. Thought we wouldn't notice, but we did.
If Steve was someone whose inner qualities were masked by his physical appearance, we can say Tony is the complete opposite.
When did you become an expert in thermonuclear astrophysics?
Last night.
His outward display hides his insecurities and struggles long before he was kidnapped and trapped in a cave. And I was curious about like the specific type of trauma that Tony would experience, how theoretically if someone were in that situation, what type of trauma they would come out with. And what I found was trauma-induced control behavior. It's a coping mechanism where individuals who have experienced chronic trauma or powerlessness attempt to manage fear, anxiety, and unpredictability by rigidly controlling their environment, relationships, or themselves. And why does that say a lot about Tony and some of his actions?
I'm sorry, Nick. What were you lying?
But I think this kind of makes sense why Tony is the way he is. Anyone can feel powerless, and when they're faced with the death of a loved one or a life-threatening situation or event, such as this, it will make sense if he has some control issues or some controlling tendencies. Now, it's important to note that during my research, it looks like this type of trauma stems from a need to feel safe, manifesting as perfectionism, micromanagement, rigid boundaries, or emotional manipulation to avoid reliving past helplessness. I think it's safe to say that Tony does struggle with control to some extent.
Yeah, apparently I'm volatile, self-obsessed, don't play well with others.
That I did know.
Because to him, it provides a form of safety. He already got double-crossed once, so he ensures it won't happen again. That also could explain why he's secretly afraid of having any attachments, or at least any healthy attachments.
I got a date.
Speaking of attachment,
I don't give everything.
often developing from childhood neglect or emotionally unavailable caregivers, individuals with this style may appear self-sufficient but struggle with trust and expressing emotions. From Black Widow to Endgame, Natasha's life has been basically broken since she was a child. And I'd imagine it makes sense why she doesn't trust people very much. It's like wearing a backpack for your entire life, but instead of it feeling lighter as you grow up, the world puts more rocks in your backpack and you feel weighed down by life and a life that you never even chose.
Your world in the balance, and you bargained for one man.
Regimes fall every day. I tend not to weep over that. I'm Russian. Where I was.
You're a weapon on the outside, but you feel broken on the inside.
Thank you for your cooperation.
So let's see somebody who actually had a solid life,
These are
Look at your face.
smaller agents.
but whose mind appeared to be broken by the Mind Stone. Now, according to my references, and I was curious how this whole scepter thing worked, it says the scepter required direct contact with organic matter, piercing through to the mind to take control. Now, this whole mind control thing, it reminds me very much of like brainwashing. You know, almost be like triggered to do things that they normally would not do. Again, not a diagnosis, but I just looked up, are there any real life methods that resemble some of the behaviors that we saw in Barton? Now, while the depiction of mind control is fictional, there are certain methods used to condition or train individuals. However, there are many moral and ethical violations of these following methods. So I'm just going to screenshot some of these methods: perspecticide, trauma coerced attachment, trauma bonding, identity disturbance, reality distortion. I'm going to put these methods up here, and I'd much rather professionals talk about this than a geek on the internet. And these signs that we see with Barton are a preview of behaviors to come throughout Phase 2 in the MCU.
You know what it's like to be unmade.
You know that I do.
But I will say that Barton shows how sometimes the imperfections that we face on a daily basis almost come up involuntarily and we're not in control.
How many agents did I kill?
Don't do that to yourself, Clint.
And when I hear out of control, I also think
It'll
of
put you in
Stop lying to me! I'm sorry, that was mean.
the primary psychological term for chronic, uncontrollable anger issues is intermittent explosive disorder.
You need to step away.
Why shouldn't the guy let off a little steam?
This mental health condition is characterized by repeated, sudden episodes of impulse, aggressive, or violent outbursts that are disproportionate to the situation, such as road rage, throwing objects, or screaming. If you want to watch a full explanation, please go to Cinema Therapy. It's a director and a therapist. These guys, they know what's up. But for me, I'm going to focus more on the stress part and how anger can stress out your body, because that's more personal to me and that's what happened to me. While a certain amount of stress can be a superpower, there is such thing as chronic stress, which can turn you into a completely different person. So anger itself can negatively affect your everything. Greater risk of heart attacks, a weakened immune system. I should know this is because it happened to me. A doctor basically told me to quit my job because I had ambient anger and it wasn't making me healthy.
You're tiptoeing, big man. You need to strut.
Prolonged stress from anger is also linked to digestive disorders such as Crohn's disease. Again, I should know about this. I was diagnosed with it. I got told the same thing. Prolonged anger is not good for the gut.
Ow!
There's also brain and mental health issues. Anger can apparently affect your nerve cells. It can impact your memory, decision making. It's also associated with increased anxiety and depression. Many of us may not struggle with anger per se, but I think it's safe to say all of us at some point in our lives have felt stress, and some stress can really make you feel like you're at a breaking point. Speaking of breaking point, let's take those two words and reverse them.
No hard feelings, Point Break. You got a mean swing.
So I was curious of what this guy struggled with in the first Avengers before phases 2 through 4 broke him in every way imaginable. But I think deep down, one of the issues he had in this movie was he was struggling because he wanted his brother to do the right thing.
Come home.
You ever have a family member, like you know where they are, you just think, man, if they just got their life together, they'd be happy. They'd be happier than Coulson meeting Captain America.
I watched you while you were sleeping.
He really wants his brother to do the right thing, but time and time and time again,
You listen well, brother.
I'm listening.
So I think for us in the real world, it can like break us when someone we care about, someone who's close to us, doesn't act with integrity, and at times they decide to attack us as well. So it can be an issue. On the one hand, you do feel bad for Reindeer Gaines because he grew up believing a lie. However, his actions and his methods tend to cause more harm than good.
And I will not be bullied by that.
Puny God.
So after going over a few of the many things that these characters faced, how can these broken characters be built up into something that makes them feel more whole despite being broken? So what happens when you have the right push?
Bill, come in.
Phil.
I can't stay.
His first name is Agent.
So I hinted at it earlier, but I think all the characters feel a measure of guilt when Coulson died. If they weren't focusing on each other's imperfections, or let's be honest, if they weren't being controlled by the Mind Stone, yes, I think it's safe to say that the Mind Stone was likely causing them to argue. They would have seen the attack coming and things probably would have been different, but that is not the reality that we live in. I think this scene was like these characters being forced together, but as a result, they didn't cooperate and then they got broken again. Literally in the movie, they got separated from each other, like broken pottery. So how did they respond? Well, I think the lacquer or the golden glue was Coulson's death.
This was never gonna work. They didn't have something to...
While not explicitly finished in the film, it is widely understood that it was never going to work if they didn't have something to avenge. See what I did there?
Oh yeah, it's all coming together.
Well, you know that feeling when you talk to like a close friend or a family member and you tell them you're struggling with something and they surprise you by saying, I've been there or I struggle too?
And I'm a huge fan of the way you lose control and turn into an enormous green rage monster.
Thanks.
The more relatable you are, the less cursed you feel, so to speak. So these heroes have more in common due to being broken than they would have had nothing ever happen and they had an easy life.
I read all about your accident. That much gamma exposure should have killed you.
So you're saying that the Hulk, the other guy, saved my life? That's nice. Saved it for what?
I guess we'll find out.
You may not enjoy that.
And you just might.
They use their perfections, and as a result, they become heroes. Being a hero doesn't make them feel broken, and it's also good for their mental health. Albeit, there are risks as shown in this movie, but I think low-key, I think it's safe to say these characters are like thrill seekers anyways. So let's look at a couple examples of how being a hero and using their imperfections and their past pain makes them a hero and makes them feel whole. Cap was broken by being a man out of time, but he listened to Coulson, who said,
People might just need a little old-fashioned.
as a result, he uses his past experience as a leader and he gets his fix, so to speak, by avenging and leading. Tony didn't want to waste his life, and as a result, he can go crazy regarding his obsession with tech and showing off, all while being willing to prove Cap wrong and lay his life down twice. Nat is able to use all those years of training to do her best work.
You and I remember Budapest very differently.
And as a result, she learns how to trust. Clint gets knocked back into reality, but he also gets to fight for his family and he ends up inspiring Kate Bishop in the process despite his mind being temporarily broken. Hulk can have a nice healthy catharsis, which is very good for anger, similar to lifting weights, boxing, running. Point Break felt lost because he to some extent did blame himself for his brother's death, his brother's past, his brother being a villain, but yet he still has boundaries and manages to bring his reindeer brother home. So instead of running away from imperfection or feeling cursed by it or haunted by it, I would actually encourage my younger self to study your weaknesses, learn about your weaknesses, and see what you can do to turn those weaknesses into strengths. Anything from physical disabilities, could be illness, could be stuttering, stress, migraines, whatever makes you feel broken, I would try your best to understand it. And if you understand it, then maybe you can learn small but sure ways to make it a strength. You likely won't feel cursed by your imperfections. You'll probably feel liberated. And as a result, you'll be more relatable to individuals struggling with the same things. Who knows? You might even feel like a broken piece of pottery that was put back together. Please take everything I say as a gram of protein. Thank you once again for watching. As always, remember to stay mentally fit, emotionally fit, and physically fit. And I will see you all in the next video.
Shakespeare in the Park?
Doth mother know you weareth her drapes?